Welcome to another episode of Making Sense, a conversation about real life. In the last episode, we spoke about a shift in our thinking. Let me begin today's conversation with Dr. Fakan Najeeb about identifying what I think is a real fundamental issue: business regulations.
And couldn't agree with you more, Nadia. Creating markets in Pakistan should be the role of the regulators in Pakistan. And so we need a shift from regulating the market to creating the market. And market creation is the only way you will have innovation and creativity in the country. So that's a very important structural reform that we must do in the country.
So that's one area that you've identified. What are the other areas that you think that we need to focus on?
So if we think about creating markets, the world has progressed due to these markets. Wealth has been created, prosperity has been created through these markets. So the second one would be to think about how we can have the government role become less and less as we move forward. So divestment would be a key area in Pakistan. About 200 odd SOEs, 85 of them very key. So we should start thinking about that. I think that should be the key other area.
And what about some other things? For instance, I mentioned business regulation, you spoke about divestment. Any other reform areas that we need to look at? Agriculture, maybe industrialization, focus on services. What's the way forward?
So absolutely. I think in order of preference, agriculture could be right, there at the top. Agriculture productivity in Pakistan continues to be tremendously weak. So agriculture urgency in the country is a way forward. From improving yields to getting our water not wasted, to getting our produce not wasted, to creating a market of logistics, agriculture should be right out there. But I think that something that's become very, very fundamental and is energy. Energy sector ambience determination. What should be the energy sector looking in the next 3 to 5 years? So should we still have all the discourse with the government? Should they be in the private sector hand? What should be a multi-buyer, multi-seller market? So I think that is the structural reform that we are thinking about.
So very complex terms you're using: multi-buyer, multi-sector.
So no, it's very simple, right? Right now, you go abroad, you have 4 sellers of electricity,
right?
And they come to you and tell you, you can buy our electricity. Here you have government as the main buyer, and then government as the main distributor. And so this whole thing, it's like your a market of mobiles, right?
Right.
You can go to a number of them, and so that's what we have to start thinking about. So instead of worrying about price increases happening, not happening, gas is coming, the whole emphasis should go into that kind of structural work.
So that's where you're talking about the government creating the market.
Absolutely.
The market creating.
Yeah. So this whole mindset should become of creating markets in Pakistan. And that's and these markets should then involve all the humans that are there, their creativity, their innovation, their entrepreneurship. And we would start looking at a different kind of market. Similarly, if you think about it, the cities, we have the Paris mayor now thinking about a 15-minute city. We have in Sweden where they're thinking about 1-minute streets.
And what exactly does that mean?
That means that services are available to you within a 15-minute walking range or on a 1-minute street. So that's the kind. So look at the growth that would be created there. So cities would become engines of growth.
So you're focusing on the local economy, whether it is at at local level, and then you at the local, then provincial, and then at the federal level.
Sure. And something that I recently wrote about tied to this is the growth of the SME sector in Pakistan, right? You have 5.2 million kind of SMEs that we have, and they've done well. There's been a new policy also. There's been an old policy at work. So but the scale and quality that we can do with them. So, and that really involves people, right? If everyone was to be having 1 or 2 more employees, that would be 10 million jobs there. And that would suit any government.
But then you need to focus on growth enterprises. These mom and pop shops is not where your growth is going to come from. It's probably going to be those innovative businesses, the entrepreneurs in the economy that will, bring about this growth. And for that, you need to create that ecosystem that I believe I was reading one of your articles, you mentioned, developing an entrepreneurial ecosystem that has access to capital, to business development services and venture capital, startup, growth capital, and then business incubation centers, accelerator programs.
So absolutely. And I keep saying this, it is the mindset that we need to change. We have to start thinking about the economy in a very different manner rather than, the government running it, and the government doing the policy work and the state doing the regulation. You have to start thinking about it in a very different manner. That's where the energies of the youth will be utilized. And that's how we have to start thinking about it. And these are the seismic structural changes that we need to make to move forward. The government is really, really rich in assets. The railroad, the road network, the gas network, the transmission network, the generation network, the PIAs, the Pakistan Railway, the road creation, all is done by the government. They've created trillions of rupees of assets. You need to lease these assets to an efficient private sector. Just imagine the kind of change that would be possible. Just imagine that if you were to have these all leased to the private sector and get all this money today, rather than taking loans on them, you can recycle and create new projects of more brick and mortar, but more so of the soft infrastructure also.
So you were talking about assets that the government has created. I believe you had mentioned this, and I came across it for the first time, this term asset recycling. This is what it actually is.
Yeah.
It's different from a lease-based model, or?
Yeah, it's something like that. But asset recycling is something we used to do when I was working in Australia. They do it very well, but the brownfield projects then are leased on 30 to 50 to 100 years. And Sydney Airport has a $30 billion value right now.
Right.
It's not with the government. The government doesn't run it.
Right.
It's under an SPV. People like me are owners of that SPV. If we invest there, people like you can be owners of there. And that's how the airport runs. And then it competes to being the best airport in the world. Islamabad airport was created for $1.5 billion, if I remember correctly. So build that potential, get the private sector to run that airport efficiently. These are the kind of things that we need to start thinking. When I say structural shift, we need to make that seismic structural shift in our mind that we would work differently. That I don't see happening. And that leadership again has to come from the political class, which have to start getting a new narrative for Pakistan, a narrative built on every Pakistani being able to play that energetic, creative role in the things that we want to do in Pakistan.
So what we've done today is taken stock of what we feel are the key fundamental issues for reform that need to be undertaken. We'll continue diving a bit deeper in our upcoming episodes. Don't forget to catch us on YouTube, Making Sense. Thank you, Dr. Khaqan.
Bye, Nadia.